The one question that pretty much solved all my dating problems, all the problems I usually have in dating, is a very simple one. Simple but powerful. And I think very often we overlook, the power of simply asking ourselves the simplest questions, right? And the question goes like this: if I could imagine the person of my dreams, if I could imagine the person that I truly want to be with, imagine life with them, how would this person treat me? How would this person speak to me? How would they nurture me? How would they respect me? What would a life of love be like with this person, right? That's it. That's a question. I think quite often we overcomplicate things, right? A lot of us, because we have this desire, this need to be liked, to be loved, we overlook asking ourselves the simple questions. And not only that, but we end up in situations with people who really don't love or respect us at all. We end up in toxic situations and relationships with people who don't treat us the way that we desire to be treated, the way we want to be treated. But if we would just stop, right, and ask ourselves a simple question: how do I want to be loved? What does a life of love look like to me? And pretty much all our problems as it pertains to dating and ending up with the wrong person, all of them would simply go away. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a very easy thing to do, because I feel like, very often your mind has to be stronger than your feelings. Your mind has to be stronger than your desires and, your emotions, right? So I'm not making this video to say it's a simple thing, you know. But I've always said that the treatment of yourself and the way that you allow others to treat you shouldn't be dependent on your feelings. Shouldn't be dependent on the way you're feeling in the moment, right? This is why I talk so much about choosing yourself. Choosing yourself despite the way that you feel. You might meet somebody, right? You might meet someone, and in your mind, you're already hoping that this person is, your person. You're already hoping that this person is, the one that is for you, right? And then it gets to a point in which you realize that the qualities that you wanted, the qualities that you expected in this person, you're not truly seeing them. And very often we have the need to hold on to the person, hoping that they will change, hoping that things will get better, hoping that somehow this person will evolve into the person that we desire or change for us. And they never end up doing it. They never end up changing. But you have to love yourself so much. You have to respect yourself so much. You have to value yourself so much that you're willing to walk away even when there's a part of you that wants to stay. Even when there's a part of you that wants to hold on to this person. You have to value yourself so much that you're willing to walk away if the love, if the respect, if all the things that you want in a person aren't being reflected back to you. And obviously, I'm not saying, to be unrealistic and be sort of delusional. I'm not saying for you to expect like a Prince Charming or a Cinderella. out of a person, because ultimately we're not all perfect, right? Ultimately, we all make mistakes. But I think you have to have boundaries. You have to have things that you're willing to tolerate, and you have to have things that you're willing to not tolerate, right? This is not to say, the person that shows up in your life is going to be perfect and everything is just going to be exactly how you want it, because you're not perfect yourself, right? None of us are truly perfect in the sense that we don't make mistakes, right? We're perfect in the sense that our being, is perfect, but you know, throughout our everyday interactions, we do make mistakes, right? So I'm not telling you to expect perfection because you never truly find it. What I'm saying is that you have to have your non-negotiables. You have to have the things that you're willing to not put up with. You have to have the things that you're willing to say, this isn't for me, and simply walk away. Simply walk away and choose yourself, despite the way you feel, despite that desire to have someone there. You have to walk away. And I think, this is why I kind of talk so much about getting to a place in which you feel fulfilled from within, getting to a place in which your world feels whole from within. I think very often we make someone our world. We make someone, the thing, the person that is meant to sort of make us happy or bring us happiness, right? When happiness is truly found within. This is why you have to be happy from within, right? And it's not to say that this person cannot bring or add to your happiness, but when you're happy from within, then you don't have the need to hold on to people, right? You love what you love from a place of detachment. And when I say detachment, I don't mean coldness. When I say detachment, what I mean is you love in the sense that you allow that person to be free. You love in the sense that if it comes to a point in which you have to let this person go, then you're okay. You're okay, right? That's what I mean when I say detachment. Love in a way in which you give that person freedom to be themselves. You give that person freedom and give yourself freedom to walk away if possible, right? There was a point in my life in which, I held on to things way longer than I should. I held on to things even when, there was a part of me that sort of was nudging me, to tell me that this isn't for me, right? And there's always that aspect of you that is sort of, in a sense, guiding you. There's that aspect of you, that small voice in your head that's telling you this person isn't for you. And very often we overlook it. Very often we bypass it. This is why you really have to know yourself. You have to know what it is that you want. You have to know what it is that you desire in a person. You have to know what a life of love would look like with the person that you truly desire. And if something doesn't uphold to the love that you want, then let it go, right? Let it go because you'll be okay, right? Let it go because you'll be fine. Even as it pertains to relationships, right? I very often say that it's kind of getting dark out here. I've always said that, very often when something ends as it pertains to relationship, I think we immediately consider it a failure, right? We immediately consider it as something that went wrong, right? And when I look back at my life, when I look back at some situations and relationships that I've been in, and I really reflect, I reflect from a place of, I guess, detachment, if you want to use that word. I reflect from a place of objectivity. Then I begin to realize that every relationship, every situation that I found myself in was a success. It brought me something, brought me a lesson that I needed to learn. Whether that lesson, was standing on my boundaries, choosing myself, respecting myself, loving myself, standing up for myself, or that lesson, was coming from someone who showed me that I was valuable, who showed me, the way that I desire to be loved, the way I desire to be respected, right? Everything brings with it a lesson. There's no such thing as a loss. You might meet someone, might be good for a while, and then things suddenly end. You might meet a person, and things might be absolutely horrible, and it ends. But ultimately, both those things are successes as well, because if you look back and you ask yourself what I can take away from that situation, then you will begin to realize that there's always a lesson. There's always something that you can learn for you to grow. And that's what relationships are about. Relationships are about growth. Relationships are about, you know, so they're recognizing things within you that you need to ultimately bring awareness to, or they are about growing, right? So no relationship is truly a failure. Every single relationship in itself is a success. But if all we focus on is things ending, if all we focus on is the bad, then we will never truly come to the recognition of the good. We will never truly come to a place in which we see that that experience that we went through, that thing that we went through, that toxic relationship that we went through, it was working in our favor. It was working for us. Every single thing that we experience in this life is sort of meant to bring us back to a place of love, right? Starting with self love. I've always said that, contrast is necessary, right? You experiencing something toxic, you experiencing something, you know, that you didn't want to experience, is sort of meant for you to recognize what it is that you truly want, right? What it is that you truly desire. That's what it's there for. But ultimately, you're not meant to sort of keep repeating the same mistakes, keep being stuck in that same loop. You're not meant to be stuck in a loop. You're meant to take away the lesson that you're meant to take away from that situation and ultimately move forward, right? Move forward in the right way. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And that's what a lot of us are doing as it pertains to relationship. We're stuck in this cycle of expecting someone that has shown us time and time again that they won't change to change. We're stuck in this cycle of constantly begging someone, constantly pleading to someone to love us when they will never truly give us the love that we desire. And I think ultimately it's not even someone else's responsibility to give us the love that we desire. It's our responsibility, right? It's our responsibility to sort of look at ourselves and ask ourselves, you know, what love do I desire? And first and foremost, give ourselves that love. And everything, every person that comes into our lives sort of have to be a reflection of that love. That's what I think, right? That's what I personally think. I made a video a few months ago and I said that to attract the love that we want, we must become the love that we need. And what I was alluding to is that, you know, you have to come to a place in which you respect, you adore, right? You love yourself, you value yourself so much that you're able to recognize what isn't in alignment with the respect and the love that you have for yourself, right? And I remember, yeah, I used to watch Ram Wills. Shout out to Ram Wills. I've learned so much from him. And there is this one video which truly changed my life in which he said, you have to see yourself inside a woman, right? And obviously, if you want to talk about it on a physical or sexual standpoint, right, you have to have attraction to that person. But also you have to see certain values that you want, certain values that you desire in that person as well. But I would even take it further, and I would say that you have to see yourself in that person means that you have to see the love that you have for yourself being reflected back to you from that person, right? I'm at a point right now in my life in which immediately if I meet a woman, immediately if I'm dating a woman, I can sort of tell how much interest she has in me. And it's because I recognize what it is that I desire. I recognize what it is that I want. Right? I recognize the love that I want to reflect back to me. And it's coming from a place of self-love, right? And I feel like the more you love yourself, the more you get to a place in which you begin to value yourself, the more you become sensitive to the treatment of others, right? You sort of get to a place in which you look at your life, you look at everyone, and I'm not only talking about romantic relationships, but you look at every relationship in your life, and you sort of begin to sort of pick them apart. You begin to say, hey, you know, is this person treating me the way I expect to be treated? This isn't reflecting the love that I desire. I don't know about this, right? You begin to sort of look at your relationships in your life that way, and that has happened to me, and it's happening to me currently, right? And I think it's a mark of growth. It's a mark that you're evolving and you're moving forward. It's a mark that you're growing, right? And there's gonna come a point in your life in which you have to let some of the people go, even the ones that you love, even the ones that have been in your life for a while. You have to let them go simply because they are not reflecting the love that you truly desire, right? Not everyone can grow with you, and you don't have to let them go from a place of anger or resentment. Ultimately, you can let them go from a place of love, right? I've always said love knows when to hold on, and love knows when to let go, right? And just because they're not a part of your life anymore doesn't mean that they can't be a part of your heart, right? I carry everyone that has been a part of my life with me in my heart, and not in the sense that I attach, I'm still attached to them. Not in the sense that I'm like, damn, like I really, really still want that person. I really, really, you know, still attached to this person. But more so in the sense that I'm grateful for the time that I spent with them. I'm grateful for the experience that I had with them. I'm grateful for all the memories. I'm grateful for everything, even the ones that are not a part of my life, even the ones in which things didn't go as smoothly as I wanted them to. I still have them as a part of my life, and they're still a part of my growth. They're still, a part of my evolution. They have helped me to become the person that I am today, right? They truly are. They help me to recognize what I truly desire. They help me to recognize the love that I truly want, right? That's what relationships are for. They're all about growth. But I think the moment you ask yourself, if I could think of the person that I truly want to be with, if I could think of life with that person, what would a life of love, a life of respect, a life of admiration, what would a life that is in alignment with what I desire, what would it be like? And stand on that. Be able to walk away. Be able to choose yourself despite how, you might feel in the moment. Be able to say, this is not for me, and because it's not for me, I'm going to walk away. And I'm not walking away with anger or resentment or hatred for that person. I'm gonna walk away and choose love. That's it. That one question right there will truly solve pretty much all our relationship problems, right? But ultimately, like I always say in my videos, you have to get to a point in your life in which you feel whole from within. Because no one can bring you happiness. No one can quote unquote be your peace. They can share in your peace, they can share in your joy, they can share in your fulfillment, right? They're not meant to be a world, they're just meant to be a part of your world, right? That's why I say you have to get to that place in your life. And anything that is coming into your life has to add to the kingdom or palace, that you've created for yourself, or it's not meant to be a part of your life. And you have all the right to move on, to move forward, but never settle, like I've always say, for the treatment that you don't want. Never settle for a relationship that isn't alignment with what you truly want. And like I said, be realistic. No one is perfect, but never settle for a treatment that you don't want with a person who isn't reflecting the love that you want, simply because you don't think it's possible to have the love that you truly want. All of us are worthy of love. All of us are, lovable, right? Even if you have desire to attract a certain person, I've always said, you have to be equally yoked as well. You know, you have to sort of, not necessarily, I don't want to say become that person, but be equally yoked, right? Fair exchange is no robbery. That's a big thing as well. If you're a person that loves, to work out, saying that you want a person that works out as well, isn't a bad thing, right? But yeah, choose yourself. Know what it is that you want, know what it is that you desire, and stand on that, because you're worthy of love. All of us are. And the more we begin to choose ourselves, the moment we begin to love ourselves, the moment we begin to embody ourselves, then that's when you truly begin to recognize what is for you and what is not for you. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope y'all are doing well. Hope y'all are taking care of yourselves, loving on yourselves, choosing yourselves every day. And yeah, I will see you all in the next one. Peace and blessings.